Welcome back into Crosstalk here on our continuing series of Education Wednesdays. We're going to continue talking about curriculum. We're joined this morning by three teachers from the RE1 Valley School District and Assistant Superintendent Ron Morostka. And Ron, last week we talked on the program about the educational framework for math, and you brought up the math committee. And that's kind of the focus on this week's edition. Tell me a little bit about the math committee again to remind our listeners of what exactly this committee does.
The math committee is composed of teachers from preschool through 12th grade. Every building and every grade is represented by multiple teachers. In some cases, we approach around 30 members on our academic committees. And this morning we have a middle school teacher, elementary teacher, and a high school teacher who actually worked on the frameworks, the math frameworks that are currently being implemented in the district.
Definitely. How big is this math committee for the whole district?
I'm going to say 27. I think 27 is the number for math.
Large committee. So we've got about 10% of it in here today. Introduce the three teachers that you've brought that are a part of this committee.
To my left is Kristen Hamill. She's from Sterling Middle School. Sharon Shoemaker, who is at Kalichi Elementary, and Meg Kugler, Sterling High School.
All right, Meg, we'll start with you because you're on the left and I read right to left. How long have you been teaching?
I've been with the RE1 Valley for about 5 years, teaching for about 7.
Why teaching? Why did you want to become a teacher?
I got involved with some working with students while I was in college, and I realized that I thought I wanted to teach, and I kind of gradually worked into it, started subbing a little bit, and then an opening came up. I really like math, too, so I wanted to get involved with that.
Definitely. What about you, Sharon? How long have you taught, and how long are you with the district?
I have been in the district going on 4 years now, but I have been in the preschool setting for over 15 years.
Why teaching? You know, especially the preschool end of things. You obviously enjoy kids learning, and your elementary as well.
Yeah, I just think that learning is very important, and it's so very important in those younger years.
And Kristen Hamill, our final member of the committee, how long have you been with the school district?
I've been with the district for about 10 years, but actually within the classroom for 4.
And why teaching? Why not, I don't know, anything else? Why'd you want to teach?
I don't know. I got started with coaching, and then once I got into that, I just realized that I wanted to reach more kids and be able to affect them in a positive way. So,
and then I guess where you've got the mic here as well, why the math committee? I mean, you could just go and teach and go home, but why'd you want to be a part of this?
Ron made me. No, I don't know. It was just something that was asked, of me, and he likes somebody represented from every level and every building, and I teach predominantly most of the 6th grade math, and so I was kind of the natural choice, I guess, but in a sense, it's nice being able to have input into where you're going and what you want to be teaching within your classroom.
What has gone into this process? Because the math frameworks are being adjusted. What has gone into this whole process in figuring this out? Because this is something that has taken all year long, correct?
For a couple of years, we've been working on it, actually. Studying the framework, studying the new standards coming out. We've put in a lot of hours, a lot of meetings. Ron's done a lot of legwork for us in the background, too, getting us prepared for meetings and giving us information, finding things on the internet that we can use to educate ourselves and know what we need to provide for our students to give them what they need.
I guess start from the very beginning. I mean, you have this framework in place, and every 7 years you reevaluate it. What's the very first step from this math committee in getting new curriculum in place?
Well, it starts with the state, and you take the state standards, and we make our own frameworks based off of what RE1 Valley's needs are, but you still have to implement in the Common Core and the state standards that are put before us in legislature.
The legislator's obviously a big part of it, but for you guys within the classroom, there has to be some important things that you've liked from a middle school standpoint. What's something that you really felt was going to be important in this new framework for you to teach to your students?
Well, we felt, and one of the reasons that we chose the one that we went with and switched curriculums was that we felt that our students weren't getting enough computation practice. within our old curriculum, and we really feel that the new one implements that more, but still gives them a chance to use it at the application level and some real life learning skills.
And to go off of what Kristen is saying, we felt for the frameworks that it needed to build on top of each other, so we needed to start in preschool, and we needed to realize what gaps were there and try to cover those gaps so that when they got to middle school, she wouldn't see that.
Absolutely. Is there something different maybe from the high school standpoint that you were looking for as well, or was this kind of building process something that all three of you felt was important?
Definitely, yeah, I'll echo what they said. And then also, we wanted to, I just went blank. We wanted to make sure they could apply it. It wasn't just, like we were talking about earlier, a checklist of information. They needed to have these basic skills, but they needed to be able to use these skills and apply them and be able to create a product.
We're talking on our Education Wednesday series with Meg Kugler, Sharon Shoemaker, and Kristen Hamill about the new math framework that RE1 Valley's putting in and the whole process that goes in. Now, you can't just you look at what the legislator has. You look at what you guys want that's important. You can't just say, go to a computer and say, I want this, this, and this. It's not like insurance where you can say, I need this much coverage, and boom, it kicks out a textbook. That's probably the hardest part of this process, is it not?
Definitely.
What went into finding textbooks and all the materials? Because it's not just books anymore. What goes into that to find what you need to execute this curriculum?
Well, the first thing that we did is, as a math committee, we came up with a template of questions that we sent out to different publishers that they actually had to answer to us. And then based off their answers, we chose a few different companies to come and present to us. And we really tried to ask important questions to whether, they were going to meet our technology skills and being able to coincide with our Promethean boards, and if they were going to meet our district standards. And if they weren't, then how could they fix it or how could they address it? And if, they couldn't do that, then that's not a company that we chose to look at.
How many did you actually end up looking at?
Oh my, it was, I know we put many days and hours into,
Probably we had six different publishers.
That you brought in and looked at, and did you kind of have to go through and rule them out and go, okay, all of these meet this need, now which of these meet this need? Was that kind of the process that went in with this?
Yes, we even had to go home and do our own studying of checking against frameworks and Common Core, and then coming back as a team and saying, yes, this met this standard, but this didn't meet it, and we had many, many discussions.
To be able to make it happen and make it work, you have all this work, and now you have this new framework in place. How is it going to be executed in the classroom? Let's start at the high school level. How are you going to be implementing these new changes of this new framework within your high school curriculum?
It's not too much of a change for the high school, honestly. The different textbooks, but the same idea, that the concepts are all there. We've checked that. Like they're covering all the frameworks that we need to cover in these books. And then if we need to, though, we will draw on other textbooks or other resources and fill in any gaps that we might find. But right now it looks great. It looks like it's going to address what we need to address. And it's also matching the same investigation kind of format that we wanted. We didn't want to just feed the students information. We wanted them to be able to investigate and think about something and make the information their own. But now we also have more accessibility to the information compared to the old curriculum that we had. It was just harder. We felt like it was harder to access, and this new is a lot easier.
How about on the middle school side? Is this going to change what you're doing within the classroom?
Just a little bit. I think with our frameworks, the only difference that we see is they shifted a little bit. So some things that were previously taught in 7th grade will move down to 6th grade and so on. But within the classroom setting, it won't really change what we do a whole lot. It's just the material that we cover. The elementary end maybe sounds like where you've got a little bit bigger change because you're trying to build things. Is that correct?
Correct. We are still going with everyday math. This will be the 2012 version, but we are very excited about it because it meets our Promethean board needs. There is information online for parents who are struggling with doing logarithms or helping in that way. They can look it up on the web and find information to help their child with it. They have games that are fun to play. Kids think they're games, but they're actually learning. And not only through those games, but they learn how to cooperate with others and take turns and life skills that they will need.
How difficult is it? It's still tough as a high schooler to want to sit down and learn, but especially on the elementary end, how difficult is it to find a curriculum that's going to keep a 7-year-old entertained in math? Was that maybe the biggest challenge for you of this whole thing?
Well, in my room, you have to adjust to the students too. So, like Meg was kind of saying, if you don't stick solely to the everyday math, sometimes you have to dig deeper, seek farther to help cover the gaps.
What role, you're just one person, what role do other people within the school, especially on the paraeducator end of things, play for you guys to be able to make sure that every student gets taught, even though you're in a classroom of 25 kids sometimes? You can't give them the one-on-one attention they may need. What role does that play within the teaching of this math framework?
For the high school, I know it's sticking with the Core Plus template where the students are working in groups a lot. And so instead of the teacher having to talk to each student individually, they can focus on helping a group that's working together. And so that helps a lot just by reducing the numbers of times you have to say something to a group or help guide the group, and they can guide each other. So that's what we appreciate in the high school level.
Another challenge in coming and implementing this framework, it comes in the form of the paraeducators. And for each of you guys, you're in larger classrooms, sometimes as big as 25 kids in a class. How do you plan with the paraeducators to make sure that these people, as you utilize their skills in the classroom, are providing the same answers within the framework that you as a teacher are responsible for as well?
In my world, they're in the room for the whole group lesson, and then when we break apart into the groups, and it's nice because when kids are in groups, they learn from each other, so they're more kind of like the teacher. And the adults are wandering around the room, and when you see something not quite right, then you stop and correct it. Yeah.
I agree, and I think the paras are really consistent on what we teach too, because they're not just in our classroom every once in a while to help out. They're in there the same period every single day, and they hear the same information that the students hear. I mean, and there's been times where a para from year to year will correct me on my own notes and be like, "Are you sure that's not what we did last year?" And I'm like, "Okay, you're right." And so we can go back and fix it. But
it takes a village to raise a child, I guess, is that same one that we want to go back with. As we're talking this morning about the math committee and on our Education Wednesday series, you hear a lot of parents say, "Oh, they're just teaching to the test." From a teacher standpoint, one, does that bother you? And two, do you teach to the test?
The way the math curriculum is set up right now is we are learning for an extent. What am I trying to say? They're teaching. We're teaching to promote long-term learning, not just learn it for a week so you can pass the test and be done. Go ahead, Chris. I know you want to say about the.
Well, we teach. We don't teach towards the test. We teach the skills that are supposed to be on the test. I mean, and that's where our frameworks and our standards are aligned to what are supposed to be on the CSAPs or the TCAPs. But I believe within our classrooms, we don't sit there and we don't take practice tests every single day and say this question's going to be on there just like this, so this is what we have to learn, because it's not the same question all the time, and they can't just memorize a test question. They have to be able to know that skill and be able to apply it.
It's a challenging world being a teacher. I guess as you go forward, you have this new math framework in place. Can you breathe, or are you going to be looking at this constantly and trying to figure out how you can change and improve it?
Well, I'm actually very excited to try it.
And we're always looking at things and changing things and adapting things. And I mean, I've only taught 7 years here, or about 7 years total, but it seems like every year, even if you teach the same class, something changes a lot. I mean, you can hardly ever just take a blueprint of anything, even a lesson. It's hard to do that with. So it's constantly changing.
Because you have different students every year.
Yeah.
And that's the world. Ron, I want to kind of wrap up here with you. And we've talked with the math committee, but there's several other committees that do the curriculums. You have how are your committees divided up? You have math, and then
The next committee that is working on a revision of a framework is the Reading Writing Committee. And then we have a Science Committee, Social Studies Committee, a vocational, the vocational programs have a committee, Art, PE, and Health is another committee. Each one of those, did I leave one out?
RTI.
Every academic area has a set of state standards that they need to address. And so we create instructional frameworks around those standards to match what the needs of RE1 Valley students are.
And that's why we wanted to have you guys on. And thank you for sharing in those 15 minutes what it is that you guys have done. I appreciate your time on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.